for two. Kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two. Sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this. Multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top end. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo, this is the armchair. Yeah, put up your arms, yeah, sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo.
What is going on, guys, and welcome to episode 262 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. Follow me on Twitter at Jeff Lambert77. Of course, we're presented by the Going for Two Live Podcast Network, and we're here live every Wednesday night on Facebook Live, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. If you are on Twitter, our comments on Twitter are still not working. Restream has not figured that out yet, so please go find us on Facebook or YouTube if you want to comment on the show. We got a great show tonight. We got some great guests tonight. But first up, my co-host, Mr. Ryan Searfoss. What's up, Ryan?
Not much, man. Just living the dream being here.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, so we got two guests tonight. First up, we got
Garrison.
Yeah.
We're off to a good start. I love it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Garrison.
Slow out of the gates there, Searfoss.
It's normal.
He's used to it. I can tell.
All right, Mr. Ryan McDowell from DynastyLeagueFootball.com and host of the DLF Dynasty Podcast. You can follow him at RyanMC23. What's up, Ryan?
Hey, guys. How's it going? Glad to be back on here with you guys.
Yes, sir. Glad to have you on the show. And in the next up, we got Jeff Haseley. And I think you've been on once before, right, Jeff? You came on for a mock draft or something, didn't you?
Yes, I did a while ago, a year or two ago, I think.
Yeah, I think this is the first time we get you on actually, as an official guest, not just somebody in the mock draft. Of course, you're the senior writer at footballguys.com, and you also host Carolina Fandom Podcast, and you had me on your show for the draft, so appreciate that. Make sure you follow him at Jeff Haseley on Twitter. What's up, man?
Hey, thanks for me on. Appreciate it. We got Ryan and Jeff. So I'm looking forward to tonight. Episode 262. Let's make it memorable.
Let's do it. Let's go ahead and jump into it.
And now, five, 101.
All right, 5 101s. It's 5 non-football related categories. You can give us your 101 for that. And we'll go to you for 101 duo.
Oh man. Okay. So I turned back the clock on this one a little bit, back to the 90s at least. I was a big fan of Seinfeld. So I'm going with Jerry Seinfeld and George Costanza as my famous duo. I can't get enough of them. It seems like, so long ago, the show didn't even include cell phones or anything. No internet really. But it's such a great show and iconic.
Yeah,
and
it's one of those shows.
Costanza is probably my favorite character.
Yeah, it's one of those
not
shows
just
where you're
in that show, but in multitude of TV shows.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's one of those shows you turn it on and whatever episode is in. It could be in the middle of the episode. You just sit down and you can just watch it. It's just one of those. Good choice. All right, Ryan, what is your 101 duo? Ryan McDowell.
Yeah, I went even further back than that. I don't necessarily consider myself a huge Star Wars fan, but I definitely enjoy those movies. I went with Han Solo and Chewbacca. Chewie,
nice.
the best character. Good duo there.
That is a great
a little bit
answer.
of a love-hate relationship. They're like an old married couple.
That's true.
Chewie and Han Solo.
That's a great answer. Great answer. All right, Jeff, back to you. Fictional character you'd want to meet in real life.
Oh man, so I'm thinking that I'm a big fan of the movie Back to the Future, and I just think it would be really cool to either go in the future or go back in present. So the person that I would want to meet, fictional character, Dr. Emmett Brown. and see if we can go back in time, or at least go in forward in time, and maybe I can get one of those sports almanacs on the way.
I tried to get my 9-year-old daughter to watch that show with me. She was not into it. I'm like, come on, this is like iconic. You got it. And she just wasn't feeling it.
Yeah, so I would want to get a ride in the time machine and see what I can do. I think that great Scott. So yeah, that would be my choice.
Yeah, good answer. All right, Ryan, what you got?
This is a tough one. There's obviously tons of good options here. I think we're going with James Bond. Maybe the best fictional character of all time.
Yes.
So yeah, hanging out with him would certainly be an exciting time.
Which Bond?
I don't think I've seen any of the. I don't think I've seen any of the pre Brosnan. So I'm going current. I'm going Daniel Craig. That's probably a bad answer for the true Bond fans.
Yeah. But he's great.
I can see he's sipping some martinis and playing some roulette together in some casino in Monaco somewhere, right? How about that?
And Ryan, our audience is probably like 25 to 30, so I think you're probably in the right range. None of them have watched those pre Brosnan either, so good answer.
Perfect.
All right, Jeff, back to you. The 101 question you could ask and be given the 100% absolute truth to.
Oh man, so I mean, shoot, this could be anything, and I think for me, it's the ultimate question: is what is heaven like? What happens when we die?
Yeah.
How would you like to know that? At least it would be, I mean, it would be, for sure would be telling. And at least it would give us some sort of an idea of what's next.
Yeah, exactly.
What's our purpose. What's next? Will we know? Are we conscious? Are we with others? It's just, you hear about different examples, theories. I'd just love to know the answer.
It's a good one. All right, Ryan, what you got?
Yeah, I struggled with this one. I had to hit up my teenage son, and he certainly went a different direction than Jeff did. So I'll steal his answer. He just wants to know your darkest secret. So I guess he's probably, knowing him, he would probably ask anybody and everybody that question and just get all the dirt, especially if he knew he was getting the truth somehow.
The truth. That's a good one. That's a good one. I like it.
I mean, it takes like 4 bourbons to get that out of me.
That's your truth serum, Foss.
Obviously, yeah.
This next one's a new category for us, and we had a hard time with this on the last show. But movie you wish had a sequel but never did.
My turn. I'm gonna go with Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Let's say Ferris and Cameron are in some school in the Midwest, and maybe he wants to get out of going to class or something. I have no idea. But just the whole premise of that show and the comedy involved and the writing, John Hughes, of course, the late John Hughes. And that's probably why there is no sequel, is because he passed on. But
right.
I think Ferris Bueller's Day Off would be an incredible sequel if they could do one.
Yeah, that's a good answer. That's a really good answer. Ryan, what you have for your sequel that never happened?
This was the first movie I thought of when I saw this question, and I just went with my first instinct, the Goonies. Goonies. I want to know what happens next, right?
Yeah.
Pretty good ending to that movie, but some unanswered questions at the same time. So, that would be a fun one.
Yeah, that movie I did get my daughter to get into. She watched that and actually enjoyed that one from front to back. So that one, the 80s movie that she actually liked.
I literally just learned today on Instagram that Sloth was in the NFL in real life. I had no idea. I had no idea.
Raiders,
Ted Hendricks, right? Isn't it? Who is it?
John Matsuzik.
Oh, John, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I'm thinking of somebody different.
Yeah. All right, last one here, Jeff. Your 101 dead musical artist.
Oh, this is absolutely without a doubt the person that I would choose, and that's Neil Peart, the drummer from Rush. He passed away in January of 2020, and I was in Las Vegas at the time, and I was in the casino heading towards the sports book, and you know how they have like a wall of TVs everywhere, and that popped up. I'm like, what? No. So I'm a huge Rush fan. So seeing him go was tough. He's arguably one of the best, if not the best drummer in all of the music universe. I may be a little bit biased there, but he's darn good. And it was, it's see him go, because that means we don't get to experience his expertise and it kind of also, of course, ended anything that the band would do going further. So, you hate to see it, but life goes on.
Good deal. Great answer. Ryan, what do you got for your 101 dead musical artist?
Yeah, I probably went a little off the board with this one, but I'm a big Beastie Boys fan. Pretty much always have been. So I went MCA, Adam Yauch here. Of course, passed away several years ago due to cancer.
Yep.
And kind of same story. I know they've kind of continued and done some things, but it's never the same. Never the same.
Yep, I like that. Great answer. All right, let's get into some football stuff.
News and notes from around the league.
News and notes, as always, brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. It's fantasy football with no waivers, no setting lineups, and no worrying about injuries. With their best ball leagues, you get to do the fun part, and that's draft. It's like a mock draft you can win money from. Get the Underdog app for iOS or Android. Use our promo code GF2 to get a 100% deposit match up to $100. For as low as $3, you can join one of our Going for Two leagues or one of the other contests in the lobby, including their Best Ball Mania 3 contest right now that's out there. I think the top prize in that is $2 million. So definitely go up there and get that. Use our promo code GF2. Deposit match up to $100. All right, not a ton of news. Most of the news right now are just the rookies getting signed. So I had a hard time scrounging up some good news here to talk about. But one of them that I want to talk about was kind of all over Facebook and Twitter was Treylon Burks in his workout. Looked a little bit out of shape, had to leave early, looked really out of breath, had a bad drop apparently in practice. I'm going to go to you first, Jeff, here. Are you worried about Treylon Burks and his conditioning, or do you think this is just a one-off?
So we kind of had this situation almost around, well, it wasn't exactly this time of the year, but remember when we were all worried about Jamar Chase dropping balls? And of course, look how that turned out.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
However, I am a little worried about this. I mean, you don't want to see this. You don't want to see this from a guy who is making his lifelong dream of becoming an NFL star or an NFL player who will hopefully eventually turn into a star. At least that's what he wants. And, we don't want to see players fail to prepare thinking that, they've got the talent to keep doing what they're doing, except not putting more work in, right? Kind of makes me think about Kelvin Benjamin. Remember when he kind of ballooned up a little bit and was a little bit questionable in terms of social media and people talking about him. Is that Burks? We don't know, but does it worry me a little bit, especially because he has some of those yellow flags? Sure, he can do a lot on the field in college, right? Arkansas, but how does that translate to the NFL, to better corners, to defenses that are planning on stopping you because you're the main target? So yeah, that is a concern for me. I am a little worried.
Yeah, I saw the video too, and it definitely did not look good. I don't know if there's any kind of other health reasons besides just being out of shape. Ryan, what are your thoughts, Ryan McDowell, on Burks, and are you doing anything with his ranking as far as this goes?
No, I'm not too worried yet. I know it sounds like Jeff's not too worried yet himself either. We're 3 weeks out from the draft. I'm just kind of giving him a mulligan. And honestly, Jeff, like you said, I'm hardly even paying attention. It's tough to really find anything noteworthy this time of year. So no, I'm not too worried about this. Burks is actually my wide receiver 1 among all rookies. So he'll stay there for the moment.
Good stuff. Foss, I'm gonna go to you here on this next note. Panthers QB, the coach came out and said was up for grabs between Matt Corral and Sam Darnold. And I'll get your opinion too, Jeff, because I know you're a Panthers fan. So, but first, you, Foss, give me your thoughts on Matt Corral, Sam Darnold. Do you think Corral wins that job, and does it affect your rankings, especially in Superflex leagues, if he does win that job?
It's funny because he has to say it because you drafted him. Sam Darnold struggled and obviously was treated like he was in the hot seat. So you want that competition to either push Darnold to excel his game, make his game better, where he proves he's a starter, or show that Corral's better because Darnold couldn't step up and live up to what his draft type was years ago. So I think it's a win-win to have the open competition. I think the reason they have it is because they have questions, which is the same here. It's third round draft capital with Corral, who I liked coming into the process, but the NFL said differently. So I'm a little worried on that. But I mean, whoever's a starter, they're going to have some fantasy value, especially in Superflex as a low end QB2 or at least a startable asset. So I'm going to keep an eye on it. But yeah, open competition is the right way to do it.
Yeah. Jeff, do you agree there? I know you're in there in Carolina, so you're kind of in the thick of it there.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with the open competition, and the coach has to say something. Looking at coach speak here right now, but I mean, as far as who has the job and what can we expect from Darnold and Corral for that matter, I think it's a lot. It's easy to step on Darnold when he's down, and I do think that Darnold is going to take a look at his previous year and go over some things. Okay, how can I improve? Right? I mean, every quarterback should be doing that. Like, how can I get better each day? And I just kind of see Sam Darnold taking an opportunity to try to improve on some of the things that were a struggle for him. Having said that, is that our quarterback? We're gonna find that out. But in my opinion, Darnold starts. I mean, unless Matt Corral has an absolutely bonkers type of preseason and scores is a very high percentage of the amount of possessions that he's been given. But I still think that it's Darnold's job right now, and he would either have to lose it or Corral will have to earn it. And I think that's kind of how it's going to go down in Carolina. But I do think, though, with the improvement on offensive line, Darnold just by default should be a better quarterback. And I also think that he's going to work on, some of his weaknesses that he had last year. And keep in mind, Darnold and Corral are only a year and a half apart in terms of age.
Yep.
They're really not, because Darnold was right. And Corral was a 4-year redshirt, if I'm remembering, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I do think that it's a competition, but most likely Darnold is going to be your week 1 starter. And we see this all the time with quarterbacks where there's a new quarterback coming in. The incumbent quarterback plays a couple weeks. If they do great, okay. Usually they don't. Right. And then there's a change made. So I kind of think that's what's going to happen.
How bad will the Panthers fans be if Darnold starts and struggles? I'm not really familiar with their fan base. They're kind of quiet, at least from a national perspective. Will it get brutal there?
So Panthers fans are really fickle. If Darnold struggles, I think most people will be happy and will want to see Corral inserted into the lineup, what he can do. I know people want to see Corral in 2022 at some point, week 1 or week 16. They want to see him, and the Panthers would be crazy if they didn't. But I think the opportunity has to be presented to him. He has to earn it, either that or Darnold just has to fall apart. And that is what we're going to find out in preseason, as well as the first couple of weeks of the season. Because remember, last year Darnold started off 3-0. Granted, he had McCaffrey. Granted, he also had J.C. Horn, their top corner that they drafted last year. And they lost both of them in that third game, which they won. But then they lost several more right afterwards. And Is that the reason why? Maybe. but we know that he had success with them. Granted, they played the Jets, they played the Saints, which they beat, and they played the Texans in those 3 games. But, so it wasn't necessarily the hardest schedule, but
Right.
he looked decent doing it.
Right.
The
Go
thing
ahead,
that
Ryan.
stands out. Yeah,
Oh,
sorry
go
guys.
ahead.
The thing that stands out to me with this situation and is different from other teams that are dealing with this same thing of a young quarterback and a veteran. Carolina is making it clear they're ready to move on from Sam Darnold, and almost desperate to move on from Sam Darnold, where the typical response is we're going to stick with the veteran and the rookie's going to have to wow us to get on the field, or we're going to sit him out the whole year. You hear those kind of company lines, and we know they're never really true. But Carolina seems to be going the opposite end. I'm with Jeff. Ultimately, I think Darnold starts the season, but it's not a good competition right now.
Let me ask you, Ryan, real quick. If you own any of the other pieces in Carolina, is there a QB you prefer over the other? Like if you own CMC or if you own DJ Moore, is there either one of those guys you prefer over?
Well, I mean, the knock on Corral, and probably why he fell as far as he did, is just that he didn't run a pro style offense in college, and he's not ready for the NFL. So, I mean, sadly, I would, if I've got DJ Moore, McCaffrey, any of these guys, I probably want, of those 2 options, I probably want to see Darnold to start the season.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we're going to get into some Dynasty Startup ADP analysis here. So what I did is I kind of posted in a bunch of Facebook groups and on our Discord and just kind of asked the community about the ADP that's on DLF on Ryan's site, and to kind of give an idea of who's going too high and too low. So I picked a couple of players that seem to be the most controversial as far as where people thought they should go. So we'll go through a couple of these players here. And the first one I have on the board, and I'm going to go to you first, Foss, on this one, because this is you're a Ravens fan. But Mr. Rashad Bateman, overall ADP is 45.67. He's wide receiver 22, right below Mike Evans, right above Travis Etienne, and the receiver below him is Amari Cooper at wide receiver 23. What do you think of that ADP, Foss? Are you comfortable taking him there, or you think he should go higher, or what?
I'm comfortable with him there. The thing with Bateman is we're looking there's some guys maybe I think about ahead of him who are behind him, but it's appropriate just off of who's right there and how the position is. But we're talking Bateman didn't start last year till week 6. So he didn't have any reps in camp coming off his foot injury. He got no reps with Lamar. From week 6 through week 14, he never hit over 80% of the snap share on the team. So he wasn't on the field. They were working him in, obviously coming off an injury and limited practice time. By the time he was 80% more of the snap share was when Huntley was the quarterback. So we come off no experience with the starting quarterback, limited work with the team, limited work in the NFL. This offseason, he's been with Lamar almost every day working out in camp, practicing with him. They drafted him with knowledge that Hollywood Brown was leaving because he said 2 years ago in his one press conference after the game that he told the team he wanted out, which means Bateman was a contingency plan for it. I think he's going to get volume. Like that 120 plus target range is in the realm of possibilities because all he really has is Mark Andrews and some slot guys. So it's Bateman there. So the volume's there, and that's what we're looking for. And at 22, he's competing with guys who are wide receiver 2s on their team. So I think we're starting to see a little bit less questions when it comes to him because we know what's going to be there for him.
Yeah, I like it. Ryan, let me get your thoughts on this because I was surprised, and I think a lot of the Dynasty community just assumes the Ravens run the ball a lot, which they do. They were 3rd most in the NFL, but they also had the 9th most pass attempts last year too. So give me your thoughts on Rashad Bateman going here at wide receiver 22.
Yeah, we certainly knew after what happened on draft weekend that Bateman was going to see a big jump in dynasty value and ADP. And I heard a lot of people calling him the big winner of draft weekend. It feels about right to me. I mean, he's behind Mike Evans, behind Garrett Wilson. When you look at wide receiver ranks, behind Pittman, I think that looking at what he did in his rookie season, I'm not comfortable with drafting him any higher than that right now. And I still think it's kind of a Chiefs situation. I think Andrews is going to be the top target. That's that's pretty obvious probably at this point. So the second option in this Ravens offense, not somebody I want to overdraft for sure.
Good point. Jeff, what are your thoughts on Bateman here at receiver 25?
I think it's pretty right along line with where he should be. Like you mentioned, below Evans, below Michael Pittman. I think that's fair. Everybody wants that second-year wide receivers who had a little bit of a spark in the first year will have this huge jump or a leap in year two. And I think that's what we're looking at here with Bateman, especially with Brown moving to Arizona. He's got that opportunity, but Baltimore's not a passing offense, in my opinion. And, I think that might be, some false hope there. So I wouldn't put him much higher than where he is. I think he's kind of at a good spot.
Would you guys rather have Hollywood or Bateman in Dynasty right now?
It's Bateman for me.
Bateman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going the other way. ADP agrees with you guys, but I think I'd rather have Hollywood.
Part of me is I hesitated because I'm real bitter about him as a fan. Like I'm real bitter about it.
I understand.
Well, did you guys see that what Steve Smith had to say about Brown? How he struggles against press coverage?
Oh yeah, he went hard.
He went off on him, right?
Yeah.
When Steve Smith talks, you should listen, right? And there's some truth there. There's always a little bit of truth to sarcasm if it was a sarcastic thing, but I don't even think it was that. I think he was being truthful, and that says a lot. Now, granted, he has that experience with Kyler Murray, so maybe they can get some of that back. But this is the NFL now. This isn't Oklahoma,
right? Exactly.
So he's going to struggle if he can't get off press coverage. We saw what he in Baltimore. He did not do that he had troubles in Baltimore with that, but they didn't play him like that. So it'll be interesting to see how they play him. And if you do like Brown, let's just say this year for redraft, Dynasty is a slightly different topic, right? But whatever Brown does, he better do it in the first 8 weeks or 6 weeks or so, because when Hopkins comes back, it's going to be his opportunity. And I think Brown's just going to kind of fade away a little bit. Now, Dynasty speaking, that might change.
Well, Hollywood was the second option in that offense, right? Behind Andrews. He was a wide receiver one until Lamar Jackson got hurt.
Yep.
And now he's clearly getting an upgrade in overall offense, as far as at least as far as the passing offense goes. And you can debate Lamar versus Kyler Murray, but I would say the relationship in college between these two, that breaks the tie in Kyler's favor for me. So I see this as a pretty big upgrade for Hollywood. I know he wasn't even the guy we were discussing, so sorry to derail this thing a little bit.
Nope, all good. Let's stick with the receivers here, and this was one that surprised me. And then I put it in the chat, and if you guys disagreed and said it was a perfectly fine ADP, I'm gonna go to you first this time, Ryan McDowell. Drake London at wide receiver 15, 28th overall. A couple of guys he's ranked over that I thought were a little bit interesting: Terry McLaurin, Mike Evans, Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy. What do you think of Drake London at wide receiver 15?
Yeah, I kind of you mentioned the one name that I would be on board with, Elijah Moore. I'd rather have Elijah Moore still. Still definitely a believer in him. But overall, big picture, looking at the ADP 15 or wide receiver 15 for London, I don't have a problem with it. That's kind of where we typically see the top rookie wide receiver. And even though London is not my rookie wide receiver one, I recognize that's kind of the consensus or the ADP. What the ADP is telling us. So I'm good with this outside of Elijah Moore. I would like to see him a little bit higher in our ADP.
Fair. Jeff, what are your thoughts on Drake London there? He's also, I didn't mention, but right below DJ Moore and just right above Cam Akers in the overall rankings. What are your thoughts on London there at receiver 15? Oh, I think we may have lost Jeff. Foss, we'll go to you. Give me your thoughts on Drake London.
I think it's high. Like he wasn't my top wide receiver in this class. I'm much lower on him, but there's a lot of guys who are proven and still young that are behind him. And that Atlanta offense it's a mess. And we're not getting anywhere close. Like he could have targets and yards, but we saw that last year with Pitts where he had all these yards and targets and had one touchdown. This isn't an offense that's looking to score a lot of touchdowns with Mariota or Ritter. And it's going to be he's more of a big body separation to catch point, so he's going to have to force the ball to him. There's not going to be a lot of run after catch. I like the talent, but I don't know if it's going to excel in this. I think we might see a late breakout like we did with Mike Williams, where we had to wait for him to get a good quarterback. That's my fear with him, so I'm a little hesitant at that value. I have him in my late 20s. I'm probably a little bit harsh, but I got some fears because of that team because they're, to put it nicely, shit show.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that one, Foss, as far as the offense for this year. So what I'm hoping to do is let somebody else draft him, let him struggle for year one, and let me go buy him cheaper. That's my hope. Jeff, we had lost you there for a minute. You're back now, so give me your thoughts here real quick on Drake London as receiver 15.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was hoping that I could improve my audio, and that's not an issue. But yeah, I have you mentioned McLaurin, Mike Evans, Elijah Moore, and Jerry Jeudy as guys who are below London right now, and I would take all of those, maybe except for Jeudy, ahead of London. And Ryan already mentioned the struggles and the uncertainty with Atlanta right now, and I think that says a lot. I kind of have to see a guy prove it before I really want to make an investment such as that. I would much rather have a McLaurin, who I know is a good receiver. I know he has a good work ethic, and he's going to come through regardless of the quarterback. He's kind of like a DJ Moore-ish. Mike Evans, we know about Mike Evans, and Elijah Moore, you already said some great things about him, so I agree with that. And Jeudy, I think he's got potential. He hasn't shown it yet, but he's got potential. Now he's got a quarterback that can help him.
Good point.
So I would almost take all four of those, Jeudy being the one that I'm a little on the fence with, over Drake London right now.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, Foss, you mentioned that you would have London, excuse me, more down in the late 20s. Looking at that group, I mean, we're talking about Hollywood Brown and Jeudy, Keenan Allen, Devontae Smith, Allen Robinson. Like, really, this is just a conversation about the depth of the wide receiver group right now.
It's fantastic.
I mean, you could drop London 15 spots among wide receivers and not really have an argument. That would still be certainly reasonable, even to me, who was okay with that wide receiver 15 ADP.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, you could take wide receivers 5 through 11 and put them in any order, and then 12 through 30 and put them in any order. And you can't really talk bad about it.
Yeah.
People will nitpick, but it's very good.
All right, let's move over to some of these running backs here real quick, and I want to talk about another rookie here, Mr. Breece Hall, 14th overall, RB number 6, right below A.J. Brown, right above T. Higgins. The running backs that he's behind and in front of, he's behind Javonte Williams, in front of Eckler. And Jeff, I'll go to you first on this. Is this a little rich for Breece Hall, a little bit of rookie fever for this RB6 spot, or you think that's a good spot for him?
And this would be, you said above Eckler and Javonte. No, wait, 6. Javonte stays 5 and Eckler's. Is that right?
Yeah. Williams 5, Hall 6, Eckler 7.
I mean, that's pretty close. I don't know, because I think I would long term. I think I'd rather have Hall. I would Javonte Williams, and so in my opinion, maybe he's not high enough there. Eckler, I love Eckler. Who doesn't? But you have to think about longevity too. There, I mean, Breece Hall's not even 21 years old yet, right? Or at least he's quit.
Yeah, he's 20 right now.
Yeah, right. So I mean, he's going to be around for a while, and he's already got, the what am I trying to say?
Oh, I think we lost him again. Ryan, I'll go to you real quick. I'll wait for him to.
He already has going for him, and I would tend that that's going to stay. And the question though is how that Jets offense going to be. Well, shoot, they did a lot of draft. I think Jets are a team, and Hall's going to be a big part of that. I would lean Hall over Williams right now, and I might be in the minority.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit on what you're saying there. I think it might be a little bit too high. But Ryan, what are your thoughts here? McDowell.
Yes, I don't have a problem with the running back position for Hall as far as being running back 6. And I kind of could get on board with what Jeff is saying, that maybe even moving him ahead of Javonte Williams would be understandable as well. My bigger concern, and maybe this is just kind of my strategy when it comes to team building, I don't want him over some of the wide receivers that are being drafted behind him. So you mentioned Breece Hall, 13 overall. We've got T. Higgins, DK Metcalf, Jalen Waddle, the next 3 guys off the board. I'm taking all 3 of those certainly above Breece Hall, above Javonte Williams as well, for the record. So that would really be my nitpick. I don't think Breece Hall's too high among running backs, but he is too high overall.
Foss, how do you feel about Breece Hall?
I think Ryan just put it perfectly. It's the age of the running back position is great, but it's really hard to go in on that position right now that early in the draft at 14. I like it, and I like getting rookie running backs later, like year 2, year 3 on my team more than in the startup. So I'm kind of on board with that.
Yeah. I think I agree there. I do think that the overall ADP is probably what seems so high when I was looking at it. At the RB6 there, the positions that he's got, I think he fits in right there.
And
on the
team
side,
building, running backs. Oh, sorry.
What was that?
I'd say with the team building, like running backs so deep, and guys are falling now.
Yeah, I was
a
just
lot
going to
of
bring
time
up
where you can start.
I was just going to bring up one of those guys that have fallen quite a bit here. Mr. Ezekiel Elliott, and I'll go to you first this time, Ryan McDowell. RB24, 63 overall. He's below Amon-Ra. He's over TJ Hawkinson. He's the running backs. He's in between. He's Elijah Mitchell and AJ Dillon. What do you feel, Elliott, there? He seems to be a guy that's kind of polarizing right now as far as where to rank him, because he had a good season last year as far as overall numbers, but people think he's been struggling.
Yeah, this is one I think we see a real disconnect between trade value and ADP, because we've seen the kind of steady decline for Zeke over the past year and a half, and it's tough to pull the trigger in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. That's why we're seeing him fall to this range down here at let's see, what is it, 64 overall. So yeah, I don't think I would draft him there. Just again, that's kind of a team building mindset for me, that I don't want to draft that player that I know can't really gain value. At the same time, I think he's a great buy low target in dynasty leagues right now. I think the hate has gone way too far. I mean, you see some of the other 26, 27-year-old running backs, they're still 2nd or 3rd rounders. Really, I just don't think Zeke played as bad as some of us are making it seem last year.
Yeah, we have an injury analyst that going for 2 who's a doctor, and he talked about Zeke's injury and how that really affected him, and how he thinks he's going to come back fully healthy this year. Now, will he be as effective as he was early in his career? Probably not, but he says his RB24 spot is probably a little bit too low. Now, granted, like you mentioned, in ADP, it probably feels a little bit different than if you had him on your team, if you're buying him low. So I agree there as well. Foss, what are your thoughts on Zeke?
Zeke feels like a steal to me there, because even like we talked about team building before, like if you're grabbing wide receivers early and say you hit some good ones, you get a Jamar Chase, you get Justin Jefferson to start, or in back-to-back somebody else, you're building this team, and you're quickly a competing team. Zeke finished 7th last year in PPR, and we're acting like he's garbage. They lost their leading receiver, Amari Cooper, and didn't really pick up those extra targets for him. And Zeke had 65 targets last year. That's PPR value. Like, that's fantasy value. Yes, maybe you get 1 or 2 more years off him, but are we really playing him much longer than 3-year windows in Dynasty? Like, I don't own players that long normally. I might ride him to the wheels fall off, and that's fine. But you know what? If he can help you win now, and you can plug him in as your RB2, because that's what you get it in the 6th round, I'm locked in on that. I'm starting him every week, and I'm comfortable with an RB2.
Yep. All right. Jeff, I know we've had some audio issues there. Let's see if we got things fixed here. What you got for Mr. Ezekiel Elliott?
Yeah, sorry about that. It looks like if I have audio issues fixed, it'll be after this. I don't want to row, or I don't want to end the show prematurely. I think what Ryan just said for Zeke, I think that's a good spot for him, and I would take over Elijah Mitchell and AJ there. I'm trying to put dirt on his a little bit too early.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to be the Zeke that we saw before, but he's still darn good, and I think that's a fairly decent, especially if you can get him, as like your RB2 or RB3 even. So yeah, I kind of like that for him.
All right, good stuff. All right, have you ever wished you could have a podcast dedicated to your home league? Now you can with our personal league podcast, or PLP for the cool kids. One of our analysts will be assigned to every team in your league, and they will give you an in-depth breakdown of every player on your roster, from strengths, weaknesses, trade ideas, rookie draft advice, and more. We also rank teams worst to first to really create some conversation in your league chats. Visit gofor2.com/league pass or league pod, and for less than $8.50 a person in a 12-man league, you can get one of our PLPs for your league. Again, the URL is gofor2.com/league pod.
And now it's fact or cap.
All right, Factor Cap is a new segment for us. We just got that dropped just in the last couple of weeks here. So basically, what this is, fact. Obviously, I'm gonna give you a statement. If it's fact, it's fact. If it's not true, you don't believe it's true, you're gonna call it cap. And we'll kick it off here with Ryan McDowell. Fact or cap? Jalen Hurts will lose his starting job in 2022.
I'm gonna say that is cap, and I think this is kind of an easy one because I think he's safe for this year, right? I think he's going to get this entire upcoming season to really show that he deserves that job long term moving forward. If he gets replaced, it's going to be following that 2022 season. We've already heard that the Eagles have all the draft capital. They've got the extra picks. This is Jalen Hurts' chance to prove it. So you gave me kind of a softball to get started, Jeff. He's got his job through 2022. Check back in early 2023, and we'll see if there's a different answer there.
Fair enough. I'll get you next year with the same question. See if we can.
There you go.
Get a different answer. All right, Jeff, going to you. Fact or cap? If the 49ers scale back Deebo Samuel's backfield, does he fall wide receiver one?
Well, are we thinking about if he loses backfield touches, so that the 8 touchdowns he scored rushing wouldn't be there, or are we just talking about a slight variation of backfield touches?
Let's say they use him like a regular receiver. He's no longer back there.
Fair enough. I would say that's fact then. I think he does fall out of wide receiver worry if he can't be a rusher and have that rushing touchdown capability, right? So I would say that he would fall out of one territory, because we've seen him before, a wide receiver only, and he did okay, and of course George Kittle's still in that team, and they're accumulating other too. So and we've seen how players can be fickle from one year to the next. So I'm going to say fact that he'll fall out of wide receiver one.
Yeah, I think if Trey Lance starts, that could also affect him as well. I think as much as we poo-poo on Jimmy G, he was good enough for Deebo Samuel to be a pretty good receiver because I think he had over 1,400 yards this past year. Only 6 touchdowns. Like you mentioned, he had 8 rushing touchdowns, which is value for sure. All right, Foss, you're up next. And this is one that I had a big Twitter debate on. I went back and forth with a couple people for a while here, but factor cap, Patrick Mahomes will struggle without Tyreek Hill and be closer to a back-end QB1 than he is one overall QB.
Yeah, that's real cap. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is fantastic, and yes, Tyreek Hill is an amazing athlete and it's a big play threat that we don't really see in the NFL, but that ain't making Patrick Mahomes. He still has Kelsey. He still has very good weapons. Sky Moore was a nice addition. Juju was a nice addition. I don't even like MVS, and he was a good addition. He's going to spread the ball around more. I think it forces him less to focus on one wide receiver than it does where he can spread it out instead of just focusing on one guy. And we've seen the splits with Patrick Mahomes without Tyreek Hill, and he averaged 347 yards in the game in over 1.5 touchdowns in his games without Hill. Like, he's performed well. Patrick Mahomes, no matter what.
Yeah.
It was just a nice extra toy to have. I'm not worried at all.
Yeah, the argument that I had, I brought the same splits. Now, granted, I think it was only 4 games that was that split, but I brought the same split that he was actually better than
5, yeah.
He was 5 games. Yeah, I knew it was 4 or 5 games. But, yeah, I brought the same thing up. And I also brought it up because their argument was that if you had Patrick Mahomes and another fringe QB1, you might play the matchups. And I'm like, I'm not looking at my roster and ever picking like a Kirk Cousins over Patrick Mahomes. Even if Kirk Cousins ends up outscoring him that particular week, I still feel like I made the right decision taking Patrick Mahomes because you have that tremendous upside that you don't get with a Kirk Cousins kind of player. So I agree with you 100% there. All right, Ryan McDowell, back to you. Fact or cap? Tony Pollard will finally get the larger piece of the pie in Dallas over Ezekiel Elliott. So this kind of ties back into what we talked about with this ADP. Is this finally Tony Pollard's time to shine? We've been waiting for it for a while here in Dynasty.
We have been waiting. I think we're going to have to wait a little longer. In fact, I think we're going to have to keep waiting, and it's never really going to happen, right? We do this with so many of these young backup running backs. I mean, we're kind of doing the same thing with Alexander Madison now. And the issue is, and Madison and Pollard are in the same situation. They're just a couple years younger, or in some cases, not even that much younger than the starters. So by the time that Zeke really is done and Dalvin Cook really is done, there's not much career left for those backup running backs who may finally get a chance to start. It's kind of fool's gold chasing those backup running backs, expecting them to turn into the next Zeke, the next Dalvin.
Yeah, that's a very good point because, yeah, you're right. I mean, Tony Pollard, I think, is 25, if I'm not mistaken. So he's getting up there in age as well. So, yeah, I agree there 100%. All right, Jeff, going to you. Fact or cap? Rookie receiver Christian Watson steps into 100+ targets in year 1.
I can't get on board with that, guys. I say cap. I mean, in fact, I'm not sure if a Packers receiver, tight end, running back will reach 100 targets. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to spread it around. This is a new team. It's no longer the 170 target, one player type of offense. And I think we're going to see, Watson might lead the way, him or Lazard might lead the way, but I don't see either one of them with 100 targets. I think it's going to be spread the ball around and actually watch the defense do some work here in Green Bay.
Yeah. And I want to get Ryan's thought on this too, because Ryan, you're a Packers fan, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
No, not really. I actually don't have a team. So, I've been a Randall Cobb fan, so I've been mistaken for a Packers fan.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, many times over the years. But yeah, I would agree with Jeff. I mean, we know the history of Aaron Rodgers and rookie wide receivers. I do think that narrative is a little flawed because, even Devontae Adams didn't need to play a major role when he was a rookie, and that's certainly Amari Rodgers or someone like that didn't need to play a major role. So just saying every rookie receiver with Aaron Rodgers is bad, I think that's a little flawed. That's very flawed, actually. They need Watson to play a role. So I do think he'll play an important role. Maybe even, as Jeff said, maybe even lead the team in targets, but I don't think we're going to see that huge number like we would like to, and certainly like we saw with Adams.
Right, exactly. All right, last one here, Foss. Fact or cap? Despite the first-round draft capital, Jahan Dotson is a better NFL receiver than he will be in fantasy.
Gosh, I feel attacked.
By this question. That's why I put him on there.
I feel really attacked. So slowly, my opinion on this changed. I thought it may be a little rough start for him fantasy-wise. But if you're looking at Washington, they still threw the ball 550 times last year. And outside of Terry McLaurin, it wasn't the talent. We're talking Adam Humphries was number 2 in targets. Like, it's not a very positive thing. So we're improving the quarterback position, whether most people want to admit it or not, with Commander Carson. And we're adding him a legit deep threat who has springs for legs and catches everything. They could really bond. And if they throw that many times, especially in a division with Dallas and Philadelphia, who are going to put up some serious points this year with those offenses, there's going to be some shootouts, and the opportunity is there. It may not be, obviously, a 1,000-yard receiver, but that 800-yard range is a possibility, and add some touchdowns with it. You could have a wide receiver 3 as a rookie, and it's not crazy. And you know what? We're drafting him in the end of the first-round rookie draft, early second. That's great.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. I do think that he has that ability to be, like you said, a receiver 3 in his rookie season. We're not expecting anything like Jamar Chase-ish, but I do think in that offense they throw a ton. And I do think that he can be a good receiver there. I've just heard the narrative that he was sort of the worst of the first round receivers as far as for the NFL draft goes. And I was curious to your thoughts. All right, let's get to our last segment.
Get ready for GoingFor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
All right, Jeff. So Ryan's been on the show a couple of times, so we got a few of his forgotten players already. This is the first time I think you've done this segment for us. So give us your forgotten fantasy player. And your audio is now fixed yet. Towards the end of the show, we finally got it fixed.
Hopefully that'll stay that way. So this is a great question. I love this question. I went with one of my absolute favorite fantasy studs of all time. And I don't know if you've had him on here before, but I'm going to go with Priest Holmes. And
It's a good one.
The story of Priest Holmes, of course, he was the backup at Texas to Ricky Williams. He didn't barely get on the field at all in Texas because it was the Ricky show. And then he was a 24-year-old rookie with Baltimore, and he's with Baltimore for 4 years, doesn't do a thing. I guess he's behind Jamal Lewis, right?
Yeah.
And then finally, the last year, I guess he gets a couple, he has, I'm looking at it, he has 137 carries for 588 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Baltimore's like, hey, maybe we can get something out of this guy, right? Let's trade him to Kansas City. Or I think I'm not sure if he wasn't traded. I think he was signed. He was a free agent signee. Dick Vermeil must have really, really liked him, and I can't remember the offensive coordinator there at the time. But then he goes to Kansas City and proceeds to lead the entire NFL in rushing that year with 1,500 yards, 8 touchdowns. The next year, this is now 2002, he goes off. The next 2 years, 2002 and 2003, he has the number 3 and the number 4 running back fantasy season of all time.
Yep.
And then he just kind of fades away, right? Because he had 327 carries as his first year with the Chiefs, 313 carries the next year, 320 carries the year after that. And he's also getting catches too.
Yep.
60 catches here, 70 catches, 74 catches, and he's scoring too. And he had 21 touchdowns in 2002. Followed that up with 27 touchdowns in 2003. And he also had a few receiving touchdowns as well. I mean, back then, it was, people forget about Priest Holmes and just how good he was for that small stretch of time where he kind of came out of nowhere. Never really had the tread on his tires at college, didn't have the tread on his tires at Baltimore, and then he comes out of nowhere and becomes this fantasy ace for the Chiefs. And I rode him I remember at least 1 year playing fantasy, and it was just so much fun watching Priest Holmes rack up because he would have like 2 touchdowns by halftime.
Yep.
and you're like, woohoo! It's like you can't beat me. I have Priest Holmes, and he's like, oh man, I'm playing the guy who's got Priest Holmes this week. And
we know another running back kind of like that too, don't we, Jeff?
Well, I mean McCaffrey.
Yeah, your boy down there. Yeah.
So McCaffrey hasn't really had that type of touchdown volume. I think maybe like a LaDainian Tomlinson, right? But we all know LaDainian Hall of Famer, and Priest Holmes though is the forgotten one.
Yeah,
people forget about him and how he was so damn good. So he's my pick for retired player fantasy stud.
I love it.
I'm bringing him up now. Anytime I argue with somebody about breakout age,
yeah,
in college, 24-year-old rookie who doesn't have a good season until he's 28 years old. He's an analytics nightmare.
It really was. I know Jeff was around. Haseley was around. It was a different time then, right? I mean, Priest Holmes was 28, 29. Tomlinson 27, 28, 29, and those guys were getting drafted first overall in dynasty drafts.
Yeah.
I mean, and now here in this show we're talking about Zeke Elliott at 26 being done.
Yeah, he's old.
I mean,
Zeke also has the mileage too, right?
I really do think that's a lot of what it is. I think with running backs especially, I want to start looking at touches, instead of age. I think that's probably more important.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, that's a good point.
Gerson with the jokes on the chat room there. It says my breakout age was 42.
Nothing wrong with that.
So I'm in my prime. Apparently, I'm 45 now, so I'm in my prime.
You passed that already too. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm way past my prime. All right, Ryan, what do you got for your forgotten fantasy player?
Man, I should have gone back and reminded myself who I chose last time. Hopefully I'm not repeating myself. This one is same era as Jeff's, but certainly on the other end of the spectrum. He was not that fantasy stud, but here in this show, when we're talking about guys like Drake London and Rashad Bateman, I think this is kind of an important player to remember. I went with Ashley Lilly. Ashley Lilly.
Wow, that was not. You did not use that before.
Okay, good.
That's a good
1,000% did not. Wow.
So Ashley Lilly was a first-round draft pick of the Denver Broncos in 2002. Quiet start to his career, first couple of years. Breakout year breakout season in year number 3, over 1,000 yards. Looks like he's the wide receiver 1 for the Denver Broncos for the next 5 or 6 years, right? That's the story that we tell ourselves as dynasty players. Mm-hmm. He's got his 1,000-yard season. He's locked in. He's got that draft capital. Slight decline in year 4, a little bit of a step back. And then the Broncos trade for Javon Walker. Ashley Lilly is not happy, and it all falls apart. He asks for a trade. The Broncos pull off a 3-team trade. I remember they had traded him. I forgot that it was a 3-teamer, so that was interesting. He lands with the Falcons, bounces around. He gets 39 catches and 3 touchdowns the rest of his career after asking out of Denver, and that's the end of Ashley Lilly. So, will that be Drake London's story or Treylon Burks' story or Judy or Bateman? I sure hope not. But I do think, especially this time of year, especially in the offseason, right around the draft, around rookie drafts, Dynasty players, myself included, are guilty of seeing best case scenario with every single player, right?
Yep.
Rose-colored glasses with everyone. And it's obviously not going to happen that way. So kind of a warning sign here with my my forgotten player.
Nice. I love it. And we have definitely never had that one. That is definitely a unique one. Good job.
Nice.
All right, y'all. That wraps the podcast up. We'll go around the room, tell them, my listeners, once again, where they can follow you at. And if you want to plug anything that you got going on, we'll go to you first, Jeff.
Well, sure. Yeah. You mentioned that I'm a senior writer for footballguys.com. So I'm doing that right now. Lots of dynasty related things, rankings, of course, do all kinds of rankings with, you name it, redraft, dynasty, best ball, IDP, rookie. So I'm doing that, making sure that that's all up and going, doing the team reports for Indianapolis, Houston, and Carolina. I also have my Carolina Fandom podcast, which I host, not necessarily on a weekly basis, but we do a couple times a month, which is a lot of fun. I enjoy that. And I also do a lot of video editing and graphic design for different channels and such. So I'm staying busy, and it's really cool because it's all related. So
good stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think my Twitter banner right now is a Jeff Haseley special.
You still have that?
Still have it up. My Treylon's
right.
Twitter banner. Yep.
I could probably work on that and improve that. That might be an interesting project for me.
I mean, you'll probably just have to improve the quarterback.
He's got to get on the field first, right? We got to get him in the huddle. But yeah, number 5, we can make number 5 alive here, Jeff. We'll see what we can do.
Good deal. All right, Ryan McDowell, what you got?
Yeah. Thanks for having me on again, guys. Always fun to chat with you guys. Check out my work at dynastyleaguefootball.com. That's where it can all be found. I am the co-host of the DLF Dynasty podcast, co-host of the Commission Impossible podcast with Scott Fish, and co-host of Locked On Dynasty with Matt Williamson. And follow me on Twitter at RyanMC23.
Awesome. Foss?
Find me here every Wednesday night. Find me over at the Dynasty Big Board podcast. We come out Wednesday mornings over the Rookie Big Board Network. We're doing some pretty cool things over there with our show. And yeah, find me on Twitter, Foss534. I'm glad you guys came on. It was a lot of fun.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I just want to say, thanks to both of you coming on the show. Awesome. We love having you on. As always, guys, you can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Ryan mentioned Scott Fish. We actually have Scott Fish on our show next week, so make sure you check that out. We are giving away a spot in SFB12. So if you haven't already, go to my Twitter. Make sure you retweet the tweet that's pinned to the top there and enter a chance to win to your chance to Scott Fish Bowl. All right, for Ryan, and for Jeff, I'm also Jeff. We'll see y'all next week.